What is possible with AI influencers? In the last couple of years, AI influencers have taken the world by storm. And now there are AI influencers who are gathering millions of followers on social media and also generating millions of dollars in profit from brand sponsorships and through selling their own premium content. Let's take a look at some of the most interesting examples. This gives us an idea of what's possible for us to achieve. And I'm pretty impressed with some of the ways that people have been generating content for AI influencers. So first up, we have this influencer called Lou de Magalou, and she has 7.6 million followers on Instagram. Now, as you can see, she creates a mixture of lifestyle content. And what's particularly interesting about this influencer is that she is not as lifelike as she could possibly be. There is almost a intentional decision to make her somewhat not perfectly realistic, as you can see that she looks more like a very highly stylized and detailed computer game character than a person. And I think this is an important thing to understand, that we don't need to necessarily have absolute 100% realism. It only needs to be enough for people to be able to relate to the character. Next up, we have Michaela with 2.4 million followers. And she has a quirky aesthetic and a very relatable sense of humor. You can see that she is a more realistic looking type of influencer. And yet I still think that it is quite evidently AI generated. And you can see here there is a sponsorship that she has done with BMW, where they created an advert featuring her and the BMW iX2. Now, what's important to note here is that brands are not afraid to collaborate with AI influencers. This is certainly a hugely expanding revenue stream for people creating their own AI influencers. And I've seen other brands such as Calvin Klein and Chevrolet also collaborating with AI influencers. Here is another called Shudu, certainly useful to check her out. I will leave links to all of these influencers in the description of this lecture as well, so you can browse these for your own inspiration. Now, she certainly has a more high fashion, high model aesthetic. And I think what's particularly interesting about this model is that you can imagine that you are also offering your AI influencers to be brand models for potential merchandise and other types of products. For example, this company has a whole array of different digital models, AI models, that brands can then select their favorite and get a sponsorship with. I mean, this is particularly interesting that there is also this model with what is apparently learning or a disability of Down syndrome. Wow. The world's first virtual influencer with Down syndrome. So what's particularly interesting here is that we can think about creating AI model agencies. So you don't have to just create one influencer, you can create a whole library of them. And the other point to consider, I think, is that we can make our influencers stand out in a certain way. What makes them unique? And it's important to consider this when we build the identity of our influencer. And finally, we have this example of an influencer. And I wanted to show you this because this one is not a realistic influencer. And it's important to also open our minds to the possibilities of other types of characters. We will not be going into generating an influencer like this in this course, but the reason I've included it in this list is to simply expand the idea of what is possible to create with online identities. Now, for added research possibilities, I've included a link to an article of the 15 most popular AI influencers, and this is extremely useful for performing market research. So the important thing to understand here is that AI influencers are the future. That they're gathering millions of followers online, they're making millions of dollars in revenue, and that brands are not afraid to be collaborating with AI influencers. There is a huge opportunity here to learn a new skill and take advantage of the changing economic market. Feel free to add any AI influencers that you've seen that are particularly interesting in the comments below. The possibility of AI influencers is quite remarkable. We are living in an age where anyone with a passion and an interest in a subject can share their information with the world. And they can do all of this without showing their face or even using their own voice. And this opens up a whole world of possibility for people to create meaningful and impactful content without having to reveal their own identity. Now, many AI influencers may well go down the route of creating sensual, sexualized content. And of course, this is a huge industry and a huge part of what we are as humans, is that we are inherently sexual beings. I think there is this quote that I like, which is, everything in life is about sex, apart from sex, which is about power. And fundamentally, we are wired to be extraordinarily captivated and interested in sex. And that is why it is such an attractive industry to make content for, and why there is an ability to make a huge amount of money in that avenue. However, I want to also bring to attention the possibility of making content for a whole host of other situations. That in this course, we will cover the approach or the strategy of making more centralized content, but we're also going to keep in mind all the other possibilities that you have for creating content. Now, one thing that can be interesting is to not just have a very one-trick pony that is simply here for sensational content, but also creating an influencer who is able to impart wisdom, knowledge, education, and inspiration. And they don't necessarily need to be a young and attractive woman. And in some ways, there are some very attractive opportunities to make an influencer targeting completely different areas of society. Now, the key here is to understand that humans are motivated purely by three things: health, wealth, and relationships. And of course, we can think about what are going to be the type of influencers that will help us in those different areas. We can also consider that this is an opportunity to really bring ourselves to educate, inspire, and entertain those that we are making content for. So good luck with your influencer, and feel free to choose whatever type of content or appearance that you feel most pulled to. There is a possibility to make an influencer in the style and in the demographic of anybody that you desire.